3-1 to Chelsea, and here's some of the headlines that we are seeing. Boo flag, public enemy number one, boo are ya, and Fernandez booed as well. So we need to talk a little bit more about this, Alex Aljoe. And Nedum Onuoha joining us now. Alex, you were close hand at that game. Tell us a little bit more about what was going on with these boos. Was it really as bad as they say?
Well, when I saw him waiting to come on, Enzo Fernandez, I turned to my dad and I said, do you think he's going to get booed? And Dad said, nah, definitely not. And then, yeah, there were a lot of boos as he came onto the pitch. I had to stop my 5-year-old nephew from booing him. I said it wasn't very nice. But then there were other Chelsea fans singing his name as well. And within a few minutes of him being on the pitch, you realise what a top player he is. I was enjoying watching Enzo Fernandez at Stamford Bridge still, because he is such a great player, isn't he? And Manchester City would love him.
In regards to those boos, why is he being booed? Why do you think he's being booed? Well,
there was a time last season when Chelsea were in crisis, and he made it very clear that he quite fancied playing at Real Madrid. And then, obviously, his antics during the World Cup weren't great. And then I think, obviously, they realised that he'd like to play at Manchester City as well. So there are various reasons.
Listen, I'm going to put this out there. I know some people don't like him, but if he's going to get booed at Chelsea, I'd happily take him at Man City. So Enzo, if you're watching, my friend, come on, there's plenty of space. You can sleep in the West Wing of my house, wherever you need, my friend.
But apart from the booze, it was a brilliant day at Stamford Bridge. It's strange, I must say, seeing Xabi Alonso in the Chelsea dugout. I did say that to you earlier, didn't I? Yeah, it's strange seeing Xabi there.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing how he'll do, don't we, Alex? But what did you make of these boos, Kieran?
I mean, listen, I think most of it's handbags. I think people are still on a World Cup hangover. And then obviously Chelsea fans from his antics last season. But I think for me, if there's any type of player that can deal with that, it's someone like Enzo Fernandez. In fact, I think he's a player that thrives off of these types of situations, because he's a player that needs chaos in order to perform and go out there. He's one of those players that I've come across them in my career, and I think most people will say that he's not a likable player, but he's a player that wears his heart on his sleeve. He always gives 100%. I think it's a big miss for Chelsea if he does go, and I would say that probably City need a player like him going into this season with the situation that they're in. So, I think City would welcome him, and I think that the boos from the Chelsea fans are not as strong as you get when players get booed. Sometimes you can just feel it's the end and they have to move on. But I don't think this is one of them.
A little bit pantomime, Shaka?
A little bit, and I think part of that is because it's pre-season friendly and doesn't mean an awful lot. And fans are allowed to kind of express themselves now as much as any. You do wonder how many of these fans will be season ticket holders and present for the Stamford Bridge opener. But at the same time, you do kind of understand the fans' perspective. As Alex was talking about 4 or 5 months ago, it was he wanted to live in Madrid. You can understand that. Now, you swap London for Manchester, that's a different conversation, even if it is in Nedum's West Wing. That's a more difficult pill for Chelsea fans to swallow.
Yeah, gold-plated everything in Nedum's West Wing. So that soft transfer deadline passed yesterday. Obviously, Enzo Fernandez is still at the club, Alex, but there is a lot of talk as to where he's going to land and what's going to happen with Rodri. What's the latest you guys are hearing in England?
Well, we were just discussing the fact that Rodri flew on a budget airline, low-cost airline, queued with everyone else to fly. Man of the people, so humble to fly from Madrid back to Manchester. And you actually said that just sums him up as a person. He just stood there queuing with everyone else.
Yeah, in some ways, as he should. We can't all fly around in private jets all the time. Sometimes you've got to get the Ryanair to take you to wherever you need to be, whether you're a Ballon d'Or winner, like World Cup player of the tournament, all that stuff. But for me, I believe that he's going to leave. And I think the bids that are coming in from Barcelona, like Rodri has been quiet. City, relatively speaking, been quiet apart from rejecting those bids. And for the service that he's given to Man City, there won't be many City fans. They'll be sad to see him leave. but I understand why he would want to do that, for him to go back to his home country, to go back at the absolute peak of his powers now, and to play for a club like Barcelona with the scale that they have, you know, and the potential success that they want. I think for him it would make sense, and I think as well from a footballing perspective from City, here's Rodri, who's 30 years of age, and I think it's fair to say that the way the Premier League is going now, like older players, they're slowly but surely being, not necessarily moved out as such, but not being prioritised anymore. So I could see that move coming, and if they end up getting, say, £60 million for a 30-year-old player, not only is that good business, yes, it could affect them in the short term, but they'll be planning for their future under the new manager, Maresca.
What a World Cup he had as well, right?
Yeah, he wasn't too bad, was he? Yeah, he was excellent, and you know, that's why he got the player of the tournament. Obviously, some people will believe it's Messi, maybe one or two others, but he was the heartbeat and the captain of that Spain side that, you know, very much the best team in the world.
Yeah, so what do you think? Enzo coming in? We know you want him to.
I'm just greedy, though. I just want more and more players. I think just for me, from my perspective, somebody who, obviously, he has had his issues, but he's got this huge drive and desire to be successful. And I think it's fair to say that, you know, he's one of Chelsea's most important players, and by a long way as well. Yeah. I think he's also one of those players who came in for big money at the start, but it's been justified in the price, you know, so much so that the price tag isn't really concerned anymore, because you understand how important he is for that team. And so if he was to leave Chelsea, it does make them weak if he comes to somewhere like City. It's not to replace Rodri in a like-for-like type situation, because the two players play very differently. But in terms of like a winner for another winner, somebody that will do everything and sometimes a bit too much on the biggest occasion, you could argue. I'd still love to have at Man City if he doesn't feel welcome at Chelsea.
I think even though he was booed today at Stamford Bridge, the majority of Chelsea fans, if they were asked, do you want Enzo Fernandez to be playing for Chelsea this coming season, they would all say yes. They would all say yes.
I don't know. I don't know if they would.
I'm pretty sure
it's like I said before, like, why were they booing him today? Because the point you made about the stuff about Madrid and the rumours and all that stuff and what he said, that, relatively speaking, is a long time ago. And he played more games after that. He led them out at the FA Cup final. He was not booed there, was not jeered there. And in some ways, he was still celebrated at that point. So if this is a case of being booed around the World Cup, that's funny.
Winding up the England fans. He used the song Wonderwall, didn't he, on his Instagram story?
But he's here playing for Chelsea, and as crazy as it may sound, not every Chelsea fan in that stadium would have been supporting England in the summer. So
that's true.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
Okay, well, I'd like Enzo Fernandez to be playing for Chelsea.
I love it. That's what it all comes down to, and I'm sure your dad as well would as well, right, Alex? Yes, there we go.
Yes,
of course.
yes.